Okay, this video is for all the Benelli supernova owners out there who are experiencing problems with their trigger on heavy recoil, especially when you fire the gun. You pull the trigger and the trigger usually gets stuck in the rearward position, and you have to manually push the trigger forward with your fingers. Very common problem with these supernovas. So I've been asked to do a video on how to disassemble the trigger to actually fix this problem. It's a permanent fix. No negative repercussions will be done to your Benelli while doing this. It's a great fix. Just a minor design flaw by Benelli, I believe. So here we go. Extremely simple process to take the trigger out. Basically 2 to 3 steps. We have a tiny little rod inside of the trigger housing here, which actually holds the trigger into the housing, and then we have a retaining clip here on this bolt. We'll take the retaining clip off first, slide the bolt out, slide the rod out, and then we can start to work on the trigger. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Take the retaining spring off. Sometimes these things can be a little bit tricky, but if you work at it, you'll get it. Take off the retaining spring. Then our next step, we're going to take this bolt. Just pull it straight out the other side. You might need some needle nose pliers or a screwdriver to catch the lip here. I'm using needle nose pliers. Just pull that bolt right out. It's a little tight due to your trigger. Pull the bolt out, set it aside, and then our last step, go ahead and take something, I don't know if you have a safety pin or whatever. Just push this little rod straight through, and that's pretty much it. Make sure you don't lose any of your pieces. At this point, we just go ahead and slide the trigger, push the trigger straight up, and your trigger's out. Now you'll notice you have this clip here. Go ahead and pull this clip off. Make sure your spring doesn't pop off and go flying somewhere. It is pretty secure though, so it shouldn't. Now, for the actual fix. On your trigger, you'll notice, on mine, I've already fixed it, but there's this rounded part. If you're taking your trigger out for the first time, this part will actually be squared. What happens, see if I can get this in the picture. What happens is, in the back of your trigger housing here, it's completely flat. And Benelli has made this, the rear of your trigger here, has a square piece on it. So on heavy recoil, this square is jamming into the flat portion of your trigger housing and getting stuck up there. That's a simple solution. All you have to do, take a piece of sandpaper, a knife, anything you want, just to round this section of your trigger out. Once it's rounded on heavy recoil, that rounded part easily slides against the flat surface. You should never have your trigger get stuck again. After two seasons of shooting, hunting, clay shooting, just various recreational shooting even, very heavy recoil loads that I'm shooting also, I have not had this trigger get stuck one time. So it is a great fix, very simple process. Go ahead and, after you've sanded that down, we'll go ahead and put the trigger back together. I'll do that for you right now. For this clip, on the opposite side of your trigger, you can kind of see, you just go ahead and slide it's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll just go ahead and do it. Put this right inside your spring, clip it onto your trigger on the other side. Go ahead and put your trigger inside the housing, and At this point, actually, there is one thing to note. I have found it's much easier. Well, let me get this in here. I've found it's much easier to take this bolt and put the bolt in before putting this rod in. Sometimes if you put the rod in, your trigger might be at an awkward angle and it might prevent the bolt from actually coming through easily. So go ahead and put this bolt in first. Slide that through. Then you can take your rod, put your rod through the trigger. Go ahead and play with the trigger, align the hole, put the rod through, and then you can put your retaining clip back on. That's pretty much all there is to doing this fix. So I'll let you put your retaining clip on. Sometimes they can be a little pain. If you need a reference point, there is a second retaining clip and bolt right here. You can reference that if you need. But once you do this fix, you should not have this problem anymore. So I hope this helps. Hey, good hunting, be safe, be ethical, and hope it helps.